Hello, darlings. It is I, Kate the Goth. Um, you know that phrase that's like, necessity is the mother of invention? Well, today I lost 3 hours of work. So I was working on the astrology post that I put out for the full moon, and I'd nearly finished it, and I was just putting like the images on it and finishing it up. And it turns out the autosave wasn't working all the way through, and I lost an entire 3 hours worth of work. The idea of trying to go through all of that and start again kind of felt like pulling teeth. And I had other things to do today. I didn't end up doing any of them. But instead, I figured, why not try my hand at making a video about it? Usually, that would terrify me because I don't feel comfortable on camera generally. And it's kind of meta because of the themes of this full moon and the things that I'm working on, that I at least give it a go. So this is going to be garbled. I have no idea if any of the messages that came through when I was writing are going to come through in here. I've got my notes, but as you can see, like, they're a mess. But usually that works with my writing style. Usually my process is to look at the astrology, make notes, and then come back to it, fill out from those notes, and as I'm writing, more things will come through. I then like to do a podcast. Some of you might have listened to my podcast, all 8 of you, who I very much appreciate, where I then like go through those notes, read the post that I've already put up, and then usually I kind of add to that as well. Today we're going to be trying something slightly different because I don't have 3 hours to try and write the whole thing again. I don't feel like I could just go from my notes into making an audio because I'm going to pause a lot, probably, and that will sound like the podcast is finished or it's just not really going to work. So, in the spirit of authenticity, here I am being authentically uncomfortable on camera as I try and go through the astrology of this full moon. So, we're going to try. Bear with me. Don't come at me for the state that I'm in, alright? It's been a fucking day. So, full moon in Aries. So, this full moon is happening, it's the last full moon before Samhain. Now, Samhain is actually not the 31st of October, it's the second new moon after Mabon. It's kind of complicated to work out, but it is. So, the Samhain this year is on the 25th. It's the new moon in Scorpio, and that is also a solar eclipse, which kicks off our eclipse season. So there's an intensity with this full moon in a sense of that if anything that's coming up for you, everything that's come up in the year before or the past year has come up for a reason. And that is so that you can see the areas that are calling for change. Full moons are all about letting go. So this full moon is an opportunity to let go of everything and anything that you don't want to take with you into winter. So from Samhain onwards, Samhain to Yule, we have what's known as a shadow time or the cauldron of transformation time, which is a time where we can go inwards and look at all of the demons and the shadows that are in there, look at how things have gone in the last year, what lessons we've learned, what we want to change, what we want to absorb, what we want to bring into the new year, into rebirth in the spring. So this being the last full moon and it being in Aries, I cannot stress this enough, and I am going to be ramming it down your throat about the shadow work. If you want to know more about shadow work, if you don't know where to start, you can go over to my website, which is thewitchwench.com, and you can have a look there. I imagine if you're watching this, you're one of the people who already kind of follows my work, because that's how I'm going to try and get it out there. We will see. So yes, extra stress on do not miss this opportunity to do the shadow work and to let go, because anything that you don't let go of, you're going to carry with you into winter, and you risk having to go through it all over again until you find the next opportunity to let it go. So as much as it can be scary, and here I am doing a scary thing, and as much as it can be hard to let go of things, particularly things that have been in our lives for a long time, or things that we have been trying really hard for that we don't feel like we're ready to let go of again, that's going to suck to leave that behind. But be warned, if you don't do it now, like, How bad is it going to have to get in order for you to finally let go of it? That's something that I did write in there, but I write that quite a lot. Anyway, so getting down to it. So we'll break it down. So Aries is the ram, obviously, known for being quite strong-willed, assertive, sometimes blindly ambitious. In this full moon, there is a sense of grounding, but that comes from the other energies in the astrology, which I'm going to hopefully... Technical failure number 1. My phone glitched out a little bit. Where were we? Aries. Yes, fire. Masculine energy. Aries is the Greek god Aries, ruled by the planet Mars. Typically, this is like many of us, it's the very much archetypal masculine. And for a lot of us, that can be a lot of toxic masculinity. Aries is war. He's coming in and go into war. I don't know how else to word that. But the toxic masculinity, not all aspects of masculinity are toxic. And in this full moon, Aries has an energy of like the sacred warrior, the healed warrior, the warrior that's fighting for the right reasons. And in my notes, I had it's time to heal the toxic masculinity within ourselves. There's many archetypal male aspects. So you have father, obviously, warrior. Again, we spoke about that. You also have shaman and lover. We each have those within us. Every person has a different balance. I also, as much as I talk about these things, I'm not talking about man, woman, gender. I don't want to go anywhere near those constructs because I don't believe in them. But what I'm saying is that each of us has these energies within ourselves, and the masculine is the acting, the doing aspect, the directive force that brings creation into the tangible. So something that you want in your life, the life that you want to pursue, they come from this feminine, creative. It's where our feelings show us what's not aligning. If you're uncomfortable about something, that shows that it's an area that you want to see change in. The masculine energy is the directive force that actually brings that change into the world. So questions to ask yourself would be like, what is your warrior fighting for? Is it coming from a place of love? Like, where is it acting from? Quite often, that warrior gets kind of misled into ego, and ego is fear. There's no shame in that. We all have fear. It can be what causes us to fight against something, or it can be what stops us from fighting. So this full moon is an opportunity to get in touch with that warrior energy within yourself. And again, things that have been coming up with you that you've been struggling with, you'll know what they are. They will have been very, very loud, particularly this close to Samhain. I wrote a post about it the other day, that these are the things that is calling for your attention. And that could be a relationship, that could be a friendship, it could be a shitty job, it could be toxic patterns of your own, it could be like your own trauma responses, it could be in the collective, out in the world. We can see this kind of wounded warrior masculine energy and how that's playing out in the world right now. So it's an opportunity to look at those things and to ask what no longer serves. Like we do it every full moon, but with particular emphasis on what is not going to serve me. What do I need to let go of now so that I'm not taking it with me? And what action needs to be taken? And the warrior aspect comes in the fact that quite often we don't make change because we're afraid. We're afraid of change. We're afraid that we'll lose everything. We're afraid that, like, we've put so much energy into something that to walk away from it would be painful or shameful or hard. And what I'm asking you to do, or rather what the astrology is asking you to do, is to look at that fear within yourself and where it comes from, and use these archetypal masculine energies that are within yourself to help you find the strength to make that change. So I'll give you a personal example. One of the things that I've been struggling with is I'm starting this cool creative thing with a bunch of like local creative people for Halloween, and I'm fucking terrified. I haven't put myself out there creatively. Just doing this video is a big step for me. But I don't come from a creative background. I come from a survival background. So it makes sense that now that I'm trying to do these things, like I go, oh yeah, I want to do that. That's really exciting. And I immediately go, I can't do that. I can't do that. And now I've put myself in a position where I've committed to it and I have to do it. And I had a bit of a panic attack. And then I came back to my shadow work and I wrote about it and I let some feelings out. And what I got to was that like my inner teen is just really scared. I was conditioned to keep myself small and to draw attention away from myself in order to keep safe. So it's really going against a lot of my instincts to be putting myself out there. And it's a survival instinct that need to fit in, particularly when you're a teenager, is because it goes back to like ancestrally. If you were outcast from your group, you suffered death by exposure or murder. There's a wound known as the witch wound, which I want to talk about at a later date. But it comes from the same place. It comes from like, if you put yourself out there, you are at risk. And that was really strong in me. So the way that I worked through that was to lean into this archetypal masculine energy of like father, or what would a loving, supportive male parent figure or masculine parent figure say to teenage me in this situation. And I found all of those things, and it was a lot of what I would say to a teenager in this situation. And so I said those things to myself, and then I also phoned up a friend and explained, and she said all the same things to me. We have a relationship where we can be that parent for each other, and we'll like phone each other up and be like, hey, I just need to talk to like you dad or you mum, like the version that you need to hear from. And I'm saying like lean into the masculine because it's the acting part of it, it's the doing part of it. So I told myself the things that I needed to do or hear, even, to find the strength to just do and to just try. And that's what this full moon is offering, I feel, is this, yes, warrior, yes, masculine, but this like sacred, nurturing masculine. Like, it's not coming in with the fiery sword trying to chop everything down for you. It's saying like, you can do this. You just like, these are the things that you've come up in your life that you need to deal with, and you, now is the time to do it. And like, they might say like, exactly the warning that I gave you is that if you don't do it now, you're just going to have to do it again later. Another word that kept coming up, and it's coming up a lot, is accountability. Accountability is the word of the day / season. And holding oneself accountable for the choices that you make in your life is hard, and it's good practice. And it can even be in holding yourself accountable to follow through with the things that you said you were going to do, which I feel helps me find the strength to do the things that I said I was going to do. Because if I don't do it, I'm letting myself down. What else? So a full moon, letting go of what's not meant for us. Can feel like it's unfair or sad when a door closes. So I always feel like there's two people that I'm talking to when I do these posts. So one is the person who all this change has been happening at you, and you resist and you don't know why, and you don't take accountability for it, even though you know that you could and you should, and you could make different choices. And the other is those of us who are doing the work and have been working with the moon, have been making these changes in our life, regardless of which one of those you feel you relate to. When a door closes or when something ends, it still brings up all these emotions. It's still hard and it's still sad. And this is an opportunity to feel some of those emotions and to let them go, so that you don't carry them through, so they don't become bitterness and resentment, so they don't taint the choices that you're going to make in the future. And one of the ways that you can do this is to lean into surrender. And surrender is a word that we don't like because we feel like surrendering is giving up. But true surrendering is to surrender to faith in yourself, faith in the path that you're on. So you can surrender your negative feelings around all of this, and you can do so with love. And I do that by recognizing or having faith in the fact that even though this is hard, and even though it's something that's leaving, and even though that it's sad, I can feel sad about it and still recognize that it's leaving for a reason, that it didn't serve me, that it's holding me back from the life that I claim to want, it's holding me back from my highest purpose. And I the beauty of doing this on video is that I get to show you what that looks like. So for me, that surrender literally goes, fine, like I'll do it, but I'm going to complain the whole time. Or fine, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to cry the whole time. The important part is that it's in the doing. And if you feel like this resonates with you, a way that you can balance that negativity or potentially negative feeling, because emotions aren't really positive or negative, it's just what we build on them, that we don't enjoy certain ones, so we see them as negative feelings. You can balance all of this out with shadow work, and love of self, and acceptance of self. So like self-love is not always just running a bath. It can be like just, you know, making sure you eat. It can be running a bath and being kind to yourself. It can be celebrating when you've done something that's really hard. It can also be holding yourself accountable. So like, yes, I had to let that go, or yes, maybe I didn't make the right choice there and I fucked up, but I can recommit, and I can accept that I am human and that I am flawed, and that, okay, maybe I have held on to this thing for too long now and it's become toxic to me, and now I have to let it go. And you can do that without shaming yourself, the fact that you've held on to it for so long. You can just go, I accept that I'm human, and I accept that I was scared to let that thing go. And you find that self-acceptance, and then you let it go. What else? Pencil. Put my pencil down. Shadow work, self-acceptance, taking responsibility for our own healing was something that when I did write that 3-hour-long post came up a lot. Taking responsibility for your own healing is exactly what this full moon is about. Letting go of any of the blockages that are in the way to that, whatever that might be for you. It might be fear, it might be a very tangible, specific thing, it might be something in your life that is literally getting in the way that you need to let go of, or physically getting in the way that you need to let go of, or you need to remove. I'm actually getting to see, this is like when I do it on the audio podcast, I'm actually getting through this a lot quicker than the whole 3 hours it took me to write. I am going to get stuck in a minute though when I come into the other astrology, because my notes are very messy. Don't put your pencil in your mouth, Kate, because then no one can hear you. Did the warning on if you play it safe, you're just going to have to revisit that lesson. Okay, we're into the other astrology bit already. This was hard to write. So not having it right now is going to be even harder, because the astrology is so on top of each other. There's so many interactions happening between so many different planets. So the first one, and the one that I feel is most important or most pertinent, is Chiron. So Chiron is the wounded healer. And I've described this in some of my previous posts, probably better than I'm going to now. But the story of Chiron is is it Chiron or Chiron? Who knows? Well, I'm going to say Chiron because that's how it rolls off my tongue, but I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Ancient Greek story. Chiron was a centaur. Now, centaurs were wise. They had secrets to the universe. So they did astrology and plant medicine and healing, but they were fierce and they didn't like humans. So they were this kind of force that lived in the woods that had all these secrets. And Chiron, whatever you want to call him, this centaur dude, was a teacher. He was what they called like a civilized centaur, is depicted on some of the imagery, and he taught a lot of the great heroes, and he gave them his wisdom about plant medicine and the stars. And eventually he met his demise, and there's a couple of versions of this story. I've read like 3 different versions over the years. But he comes to demise by being struck by a poisoned arrow, one of Hercules' arrows that had been dipped in hydra poison. And there's 3 different versions of this. One is that he accidentally dropped it. One is within one of the Hercules challenges, he opens this wine and the wine attracts all the centaurs and they can't not be attracted to it, and Chiron is there, and Heracles is just firing arrows and it hits him. But regardless of how, he gets struck by one of these arrows, and he's supposed to be immortal, but he can't heal himself from this. He either can't or won't heal himself from this, is also a thing that comes up. So he was poisoned, killed accidentally, kind of, by his own student. Chooses not to or can't heal himself, and then is Zeus, who's like his half brother in a weird way. Gotta love those Greek myths, so incestuous. So Zeus gives him a place among the stars, and this energy, when it comes in, is another masculine energy. I mean, most of them are. I think there's only the moon and Venus, and then there's a couple of asteroids that are feminine energy. But yeah, it's another masculine energy. And that's why he's this wounded healer. He's wounded, he can't heal himself. And the energy that it brings is that you have to look at the powers that you do have to heal yourself, which is where we got to taking responsibility for your own healing journey. And again, likely, it's a full moon, it's an intense full moon as well. You know what this is already. You know what you've been struggling to see progress in healing. You know what trauma you have, or even you just know that you have trauma that you've not dealt with that you need to have a look at. So leaning into that energy, that wounded healer energy, it asks us to, like, what first of all, what needs healing? What needs healing within you? What's in the way of that? Because those are going to be the things that you want to release this full moon. This could be, again, so it could be something physical. It could be a relationship with somebody that's holding you back. It could be a job. It could be like a living situation. But likely with Chiron, we're looking at ourselves and the blockages that we put in front of ourselves. So it could be self-pity. It could be poor or old patterns that don't serve you anymore, old patterns from trauma that are replaying. And the way around it, the way to find that out, there's a lot of grounding involved with Chiron energy. So he has this shaman word that we would use. And to me, shaman is similar to witch. So it's like using the wisdom that you've gained, using the wisdom that you can find in nature, in plant medicine, in meditation, in astrology, in going and grounding yourself. If you need instructions on grounding, you can find that on my website as well. You can also find more on shadow work. I think I said that already, actually. Yeah, shadow work. Do the shadow work. And yeah, I use plant medicine. I definitely remember that I wrote in this bit about how I use mugwort. You can find a description of mugwort on my website. See, now I'm seeing it. I can close my eyes and I can see where I've put in hyperlinks and stuff, which is very frustrating because it would have been much easier to digest. There we go. We are where we are. Also, sideline, this is very meta for me that I'm now sat here recording this and doing this, because as part of my own personal journey, and I've been writing about it and I've been talking about it, and this is the bit that I have to do. So yours might be something completely different that you have to go and face and act upon and do for your own healing journey that's been put upon you. Like for me, it was just the fact that I didn't click, or it didn't save. Technology, Mercury retrograde shadow period fucked me, and now here I am. But I'm doing it. But even if only one person watches this, even if nobody watches this, I've done it, and I will never be watching it back. Oh dear. Grounding, shaman, journey, mugwort, do it. Don't miss the opportunity. Do the shadow work. Samhain is coming. That's Chiron. Okay, so elsewhere in astrology. So we've done Chiron. Other big energies that are coming in to play and interact in this. I'm just gonna have a swig of tea actually. Oh. So, Venus, love. She's also, like, yes, she's relationships, but she's also love of self. image of self, and she also rules money. And so we have the moon in Aries, and then the sun is in Libra. Yes, Libra. So still this balancing energy, and they're opposite to each other. So some of the conflict that we've been having can be described as coming from this. That's how I see it. This conflict between the moon, your deepest, darkest emotions, yourself, your feminine, coming into conflict with how you're putting that into action in the world. So the moon in Aries is calling for us to bring that into action, and the sun in Libra is still in this, like, trying to find this balance. And for a while, for me, it's been this balance of masculine and feminine and how we balance that out. So we have Venus conjunct with this, which means that the energies flow kind of more harmoniously. So adding love to that situation, adding love of self, adding abundance and money to situations, potentially. I know one person that this has happened to, actually, just within my life. And it's also adding to that energy, like, if you're doing it for love, in this, like, if you have a warrior within you, because you do, and what is it fighting for? Is it fighting for love? Is it fighting for what you want? Is it fighting for love of you? We also have, let me just close my eyes now and see if I can see it. So we had Chiron, and then Venus, and then I think the next thing I spoke about was Pluto, which in conflict. So that was it. Retrogrades. Pluto comes out of retrograde the same day as a full moon, which, if you're watching this on Saturday, is tomorrow. So retrogrades bring us lessons. They also have us feeling like we're not moving forwards in areas. Pluto is Hades, god of the underworld, lord of shadow work. And he brings about this feeling of you don't know your true potential, or you cannot achieve your true potential unless you've done the shadow work, unless you've gone inward, looked at all the dark parts of you, the bits that you don't want to acknowledge, and shone light on them and embraced them. You can see this in the story of Persephone. Again, I've spoken about this quite at length. I love Pluto energy, but that's because shadow work has benefited me so much, and that's why I harp on about it loads. So the fact that Pluto's now moving direct, it can feel like we're now going to be catapulted forward with the things that we've been doing with our shadow work. So if you feel like you've not been getting anywhere with this, things are going to start moving really quickly for you in those areas, particularly if you engage with this full moon and do the work of letting go. So Pluto is, annoyingly, I should have brought up the star chart. In future, if I do this again, I'm going to make sure that I have the star chart right here so that I can refer back to it, because my scribbly notes aren't really holding up, but we shall persevere. Opposite, challenging, Neptune, yes, so in conflict with Neptune. And Neptune is universal love, it's Poseidon, it's the interconnections of all things. It's also our dreams, like daydreaming. And this could either be like in its, now I'm questioning if it was in conflict or if it was a positive one. Where have I got it? Square. No, it is in conflict. I'm right. It's a square. Self-doubt. Yay. Yeah, it's in conflict with. So this could come up as in conflict with the shadow work that you've been doing, coming up against delusion, or feeling like it's delusional, so that, like, it's too big of a dream to be dreaming that big. Or it could also be, I don't need to do the shadow work because I'm absolutely fine, because that is also delusional. And then the light side of this is that the conflict itself between these two things, between what you dream about and where you are with your shadow work, that conflict in itself can show you what needs to be removed. I feel like I've not made that very clear. So like, hang on, let me think. Okay, so the conflict that we come up against just from our deepest, darkest dreams being what gets in the way of our shadow work. So maybe it's like you don't want to dream that big. You don't want to allow yourself to dream that big, and then you need to apply the shadow work to look at why you don't think that you deserve that. Or it could be that you're like, I don't need to look at that thing because I'm absolutely fine, which, if you're using the word fine specifically, is not true, and that is exactly where you should be looking into doing more shadow work. So Pluto energy is here to bring all of that. There was a connection between Pluto and Mercury as well. Mercury being kind of communication and commerce, so making it easier to talk about these things, and that in itself helps you bring them into reality. And the last one was Saturn. Lovely Saturn. So Saturn is Chronos. It's the planet of limitations and restrictions. And for a while, over a year now, we've been experiencing this clash between Saturn and Uranus. So limitations and restrictions versus expansion, this wanting to expand but coming up against all these limitations and restrictions. And there's been this push-pull energy between the two that's been ongoing. I've definitely written about it in my last few posts. At this moment, it's at its finest. So that push-pull energy is still present. It's gonna feel intense because of this moon, but not long after this moon, it should start to ease up. So you should start to see progress in those areas where you've been coming up against this resistance to expand, these limits that are put in place on everything that you could be. And currently, so we have Saturn in positive aspects with the sun and the moon at this full moon. So again, that limit and restriction can be a good thing because it shows you where you want change and where you need to make change. So again, you just have to go and do the shadow work. You just have to go away and ask yourself, what have I been trying to achieve? Where am I coming up against limits and restrictions? Which of those can I remove this full moon? I made that sound very easy. Do make sure to make space to honor and feel any emotions as they come up and let them go. There is a description of this in a post on my page called Honoring Your Emotions. What else can I say? Those were the 4 like astrology connections that I wanted to highlight. I also, when I wrote about it, put an emphasis on shadow work, honoring emotions, pushing through restrictions. There was something else in there as well. Grounding, shamanic work. I don't know. Not doing things, follow love. Doing things for yourself, not because of fear of change or loneliness. This includes following opportunities and jobs. Continued push-pull between expansion and restriction, and masculine and feminine within ourselves and within the world and within the collective. And I feel like there was something else, but it's gone. It was probably another poke about actually doing the shadow work, knowing me. Integrating lessons was in there. I think I'm just going to have to stop it here, to be honest. If you're watching this, thank you for watching this. I hope it wasn't too awkward and garbled. I hope that you got something from it. If you need support in terms of rituals, you can head over to my website, thewitchwrench.com, and there's a description there of a releasing ritual that I use on the full moon. There's also an ancestral healing ritual on there that I created for myself a few years back, and it was one of the turning points in my shadow work journey, taking responsibility for my own healing. And there is a description that, like, step by step laid out for you how to do that. Fair warning, it's not for the faint of heart. It's deep work. So if you are feeling called to really engage with this and do some deep work, then go over there and have a look. You can also find a bunch of other resources to help you, including, like, there's a rant on self-love that's really good if you just need someone to rant at you about, like, loving yourself and not being a dick. There's spells, there's a bunch of tea recipes for self-love and self-care. There's a bath ritual that can really help, particularly if one of the things that is, like, you're getting in your own way. Could use that. And I think I'm going to leave it there, because honestly I think I blacked out and I don't know how any of that went. I welcome feedback. Please don't let it be about the state of my hair today. I've had a bit of a day. Or the lighting, which has changed since I started, because I had my curtains closed, and oh look, ta-da. Right, I'm going to stop waffling on now. What am I going to end this with? I'm going to say, be bold, be brave in moving forwards and letting go of what needs to let go of. Be so fucking radically prepared to start again, whatever is on the other side of what you have to let go of. And remember that courage is not the absence of fear, it is feeling fear and doing it anyway. Have a great full moon. I love you. Bye. Mwah. Oh god, I can't turn it off. Help me.